Hello, my name is Michelle Hernandez,
And my name's Ali Noel.
and this is The More You Know Show. Today, we're going to be talking about malaria and how it affects the human body.
Malaria is a transmitted virus caused by a parasitic infection. The only mosquitoes to transmit malaria are female mosquitoes. The first sign of malaria goes back to the 1800s. The first person to discover malaria was French Army surgeon Charles Louis Lavarne. The name malaria is Italian, meaning bad air. Based on Ingenia Connect, there was an estimate of 500 million cases of malaria a year and 1 to 3 million deaths worldwide. The virus is transmitted through mosquito bites. As we know, mosquitoes tend to populate in very humid areas. The most common place where malaria is prominent is South Africa. As for the rest of the world, malaria is mostly seen in rural areas in comparison than suburban ones. Some examples of countries with malaria are Asia, Central and South America, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, parts of the Middle East, and some Pacific islands.
Why would this be?
Rural areas tend to be more at a lower income status than suburban. Many factors can contribute to this, as inadequate living conditions. This is like contaminated water, no air conditioning to keep humidity lower indoors, and no medication treatments.
According to the New England Journal of Medicine, common symptoms when infected with malaria may include fever and chills, deep breathing and respiratory distress, in and out of consciousness, abnormal bleeding, and signs of anemia. However, as alerting as this could be, there is treatments to cure malaria. For higher success, malaria should be treated as soon as possible, just like any other disease. Malaria treatment is just as short as 2 weeks. Common drugs to treat malaria include chloroquine, mefloquine, and quinidine. Quinidine is the first drug used to treat malaria.
Is there any side effects to malaria treatments?
Yes, it has been reported that dizziness can occur as well as vomiting, rash in the skin, abdominal pain. Another factor that can implicate malaria treatment in a patient can be if they are pregnant, allergic to any medication, and if there was a bite, and where the bite was. In those cases, another approach will be made.
Can a pregnant woman transmit malaria to an unborn child?
Unfortunately, whatever the mother is carrying will be transmitted to the fetus, just like any other infection. Also, another important topic to touch is prevention. Many travelers can get some sort of vaccine before traveling to these malaria-prone areas. However, vaccines do not really protect you from obtaining malaria. Repellents can help you keep the mosquitoes away, but we all know how effective that can be. If a mosquito comes to you and bites you, the repellent does not repel the virus.
On the more scientific aspect of malaria's viral name is Plasmodium falciparum. Plasmodium falciparum is a eukaryotic microbe. It infects healthy cells and alters its functions. Malaria parasites go through 4 stages, resulting in invasive stages. These stages include sporocyte, merocyte, trophocyte, and gamocyte.
The 4 stages of malaria have a cycle on how the body becomes infected. 1. The mosquito bites a human and transmits sporocytes from its salivary glands to the human bloodstream. 2. The sporocytes then travel to the liver and develop merocytes. 3. Merocytes then enter the red blood cells and become trophocytes, which increase the merocyte production. 4. Chills and fevers, like mentioned earlier as the signs of symptoms, are caused by the release of merocytes by the red blood cells. 5. Asexual reproduction occurs forming gamocytes, and it is then transferred into the blood, and it is what the mosquito ingests when sucking in for blood. 6. Gamocytes are then form a zygote in the mosquito and develop an oocyst and turn into more sporocytes. This cycle goes over and over again. In the moment of the mosquito penetration to the blood vessel, the mosquito first spits saliva. The saliva numbs the skin from feeling the prick of the bite. It also makes it easier for the mosquito to penetrate all layers of the epidermis to get to where it wants, being the blood. How does malaria spread to the entire body?
The virus is transmitted with the mosquito suck sucking of blood, meaning that the virus infects your red blood cells. Just like mentioned in the life cycle, an infected RBC will have the parasitic infection multiplying inside of it. Eventually, from so much growing, the RBCs burst and infect other cells. Malaria can affect many organs in the human body. The first impacted organ is the liver. Fun fact, did you know that the parasite can travel to the liver within 30 minutes of the bite? Some serious cases of malaria can affect the brain, creating a neurological problem.
Wow, that is quite fast. Isn't it so strange how fast malaria can affect the liver, but it can take 10 days to even 4 weeks for an individual to show any symptoms? The best form of prevention to not contract malaria is staying away from humid or tropical areas. If you do plan on traveling to these places, I suggest taking preventions mentioned today and check even if you don't think you got bit. The earlier the detection, the sooner the treatment. The sooner the treatment, the better the outcome.
Fun facts about malaria. Did you know that the following U.S. presidents had malaria? George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Jackson, Ulysses Grant, James Garfield, Theodore Roosevelt, and John F. Kennedy.
Did you know that Disney made the very first public health issue in short animation film about malaria in 1943? This was named the Winged Scourge. The U.S. once went official malaria-free in 1951.
Approximately 3.2 billion people are at risk of contracting malaria. That's half of the world's population. Malaria is the leading cause of death in children under 5 years old. A person is more likely to develop P. vivax and P. ovale in their liver if they have malaria history. Any person with history of malaria cannot be any kind of organ donor or blood donor.
There is an anti-malaria net bed that can protect 2 people for up to 3 years. The parasite has 2 hosts, a definite host and a secondary or intermediate host. The U.S. has invested nearly $2.7 billion in malaria control in 2016. Travelers who go to countries, or maybe even students who study abroad in malaria common countries, are not allowed back into the U.S. until they have been tested clear for malaria. So overall, make sure you stay prevented, you know what medias to take, and make sure to not be contracted with malaria.